Well, today's episode, as you know, we're going to catch up with the last three events from New Japan Pro Wrestling with World Tag League. So we're going to focus on day 9, which of course features the A block, and day 10, the B block, and of course back to A block on day 11. So we'll see how things will progress. So buckle up, and then of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as when events and promotions are thrown out, who's booked, when matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted WrestleZone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere where wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information has been unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping, so let's get cracking. So let's begin, of course. As I mentioned, this is all about New Japan Pro Wrestling. So let's start with day 9 of World Tag League. Okay, so New Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag League Day 9. Now, this happened, of course, on the 2nd of December, and it was at the Marcy something. It's in Khufu, of course. I don't know. I can't pronounce the arena, but yes. Our first match, we have, of course, the House of Losers, of course. Yujiro Takahashi and Chase Owens taking on Boltin, Oleg, and Yano. Now, when it comes to the House of Losers, we all know their tactics. They like to cheat their way through, using whatever dirty trick they have in their disposal. But some of you may think they would have picked up the win to ensure, because as you probably know, Chase Owens and Yujiro were unsuccessful in their entire time. They've been basically no points. But the real question is, can they pull it off? Well, nope, it did not work out either way, because it was Boltin Oleg who picked up the win when he applied a kamikaze onto Chase Owens. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, they picked up the next 2 points with the total points of 6. However, while the losers, of course, they have 0. Now, jumping in, we got, of course, tag team winners and World Tag League winners, of course, Bishiman, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto taking on the other members of the House of Losers. We're talking about Fale and, of course, Evil. Now, of course, we all know how they operate, because Evil thinks that he has Fale, he's his secret weapon and that sort of thing. But, of course, the usual tactics has always happened. But the one thing that I don't think they were expecting is like this. When it comes to Fale, it's very difficult to try to figure out a way to put him down, since he is a big dude. I mean, not just by weight rise, but height rise. but he does have a strength that you cannot predict. But however, what happened is Yoshihashi was able to overcome that, and he put him in a crucifix bomb. And nobody expected that coming from him. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, Bishamon picked up the win with their next 2 points. However, of course, House of Losers hate to lose; they like to retaliate. But thank God that Matsumoto was there to help out, because he gave, of course, Dick Togo a dick right there. And of course, same thing with Goto. But we can tell you this, that Bishamon has gained the total points of 6. Same thing with, of course, with the losers. So just like that, it's completely over. Our next match, we have Shuji Ishikawa and El Desperado taking on Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji. Now, of course, things have been going well so far for Tsuji and Kidd. We all thought they were never going to get along, but they did. But when it comes to taking out guys like Yuji and El Desperado, it's like, it's harder to kill, you know what I mean? Basically, they did everything humanly possible to dismantle each other, no matter what. But in the end, the combination of it was the Gene Blaster by, of course, by Yota Tsuji onto Despi, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. So, they picked up their next 2 points in the total points of 8, leaving, of course, Ishikawa and Despi up to 6. Now on to a main event, we have, of course, Satoshi Kojima and Taichi taking on the War Dragons. We're talking about Drilla Maloney and Shingo Takagi. So as you probably know, I want to confess to all of this. My money is on War Dragons, just to let you guys know. So they have worked very well. I mean, you got to look at it. These guys had fought before, and they are coexisting very, very well. Despite the fact that even though they're not part of the same faction, but they can coexist because they have certain things in common. You know, being part of the junior heavyweight, then jumping to heavyweight, that plays out pretty well. And of course, seeing them coexist was very unusual, but it did. But however, of course, it wasn't an easy task. They were taking on a team that many people remember. I mean, Kojima and Taichi, we haven't forgotten that their history goes back way longer to Kojima-gun, which later became known as Suzuki-gun. But in the end, it was, of course, the Burning Dragon by Shingo that put away Kojima, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, they got their next 2 points, leaving them, of course, with a total points of 6. And as for Kojima and Taichi, with 2. So we'll see how things will progress down the road for them. But right now we are done with day 9, so let's move on with day 10. Okay, day 10 of World Tag League by New Japan Pro Wrestling. This happened, of course, on the 3rd of December, and it's at the, it's in Shizuoka, somewhere around there. Now, as I said before, this is the B block, so let's begin. We have Monster Sauce taking on Alex Zane, and Lance Archer taking on El Phantasmo and Tanahashi. Now remember, this is Tanahashi's last participation in World Tag League before he retires early next month. So far they were able to pick up 2 points recently, not too long ago, but the real question is, can they pull it off? I mean, they're facing 2 giants, of course, 2 much bigger individuals, which is not easy to take out. I mean, you would have assumed that they would have lost this one, but nope, somehow they were able to survive it. We did see, of course, Tanahashi dealing with Archer, while El Phantasmo applied the Thunder Kiss 86 onto Alex Zane, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, they get their next 2 points with a total of points of 4. Leaving, of course, Monster Sauce was 4, but later after that, during the post-match promo, Lance Archer took over the microphone and had some things to say to Tanahashi. I think Lance Archer was thanking him, for this opportunity, not to mention not a lot of wrestlers, as you know, get the privilege to wrestle the Ace, even if it's going to be on their last length of their career before they retire. And I think Archer was trying to show some respect to a man who, of course, dedicated his entire life to a company, had it on his shoulder for far too long. So I thought it was a nice moment. Now we move on, of course, with the other members of the house of losers. We're talking about Sonata and Ren Narita taking on the United Empire, Cal Newman and Great Khan. Now, like every other time when it comes to these losers, of course, they like to apply their 30 tactics, which they've been well known for a long time now to apply. And that's exactly what they did. But however, things didn't go according to plan because once the referee was out, well, he did not see what happens afterward because Sonata was an idiot. He brought in his guitar like he normally would do until, of course, Khan whacked him in the head with it. But it was Khan who put him away with the Eliminator, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, they get their next 2 points with the total points of 6. And as for the losers, well, they got 6 as well. So we'll see how things will progress from there. Now, our next match, we have, of course, TMDK, Rohit Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. taking on the Knockout Brothers of the Bullet Club War Dogs. We're talking about Oscar and Yuto Ice. Now, of course, we all know how tough Yuto Ice and Oscar have been since they returned to New Japan, and that's going to be a very tough question. We do know that Zack Sabre Jr. has the necessary skills to take these guys out if he can, but in the end, it was the KOB onto, of course, Oiwa by Oscar and Yuto Ice to put him away, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. So basically, right now, the Knockout Brothers leave with the total points of 6, leaving TMDK with total points of 4. Now, our main event, we have, of course, Yuya Uemura and Shota Umino taking on Hiromu Takahashi and David Finlay. Now, of course, we all know Finlay and Hiromu are the odd couple in this match. Very unusual how they team up, but it doesn't stop there for them whatsoever. We have seen mistakes coming from both sides. I mean, we did see, of course, where Uemura accidentally lariat Shota Umino when he was about to take out Hiromu, and then, of course, David Finlay used what's his name, Hiromu as a battering ram or something out of a power bomb, and missed just like that. So that's what led to it. But in the end, it was the second chapter by Umino onto Hiromu, just like that. 1, 2, 3, it was over, and they leave the total points of 6, leaving Finlay and Hiromu with just 4. So we'll see how things will go from there. So we're done right now with day 10. So let's move on with our last review, which is, of course, day 11 of World Tag League. Okay, so final review with New Japan with World Tag League. We are now in day 11, and this happened on the 5th of December, of course, and it was at Osaka at the infamous Adion Arena Osaka, of course, which of course is the same venue where Stardom done all their shows and possibly promotions as well. But as you all know, this is for the A block. Now, we opened up, of course, with the House of Losers once again. We have Yujiro Takahashi and Chase Owens taking on, who are they taking on? Oh yeah, Satoshi Kojima and Taichi. Now, of course, we all know exactly how these losers operate. We've seen them with their usual tactics, trying to pick up the win. But the reason this one, to me, it was more of a desperation to find a way to win for obvious reasons. For those who don't know, Yujiro Takahashi and Yujiro, of course, and Chase, well, let's just say that they've been at the bottom of the barrel with just 0 points, so they were desperate. I mean, we know that Kojima and Taichi were unsuccessful to gain 2 more points after that because they were still at 2. But we did see, of course, the Yujiro Kane being involved, but later it was stopped. Then we see, of course, the combination of both powders in the eyes and low blow by the idiot Chase Owens, but it was, of course, Yujiro that picked up the win by pinfall, and just like that, they finally get their 2 points, these damn losers. But yes, that's how they operate. Now, our next match, we have Shuji Ishikawa and El Desperado taking on, of course, the other House of Losers. We're talking about Don Fale and Evil. Now, of course, like I said, we saw that, but many of you may not know this. Dick Togo will be taking a leave of absence, and Sho decided to play Dick Togo 2.0. He thinks that he is cooler like that. he's gonna play the role of Dick Togo, try to ensure that Evil gets his wins, because we all know that Dick Togo is a kiss ass. That's what he's been the entire time, and now Show is stepping up to take that place. We did see, of course, the usual where Dick Togo does the belt thing, try to make it look like that the opponent won, but nope, that sort of thing. But of course, Show, of course, applied a chair onto Desperado and whacking him, and just like that, Evil applied everything is evil. 1, 2, 3, it's over. So basically, the losers got 2 more points with the total points of 8, which is the last thing we need from them. And of course, Ishikawa and Despy has 6. So we'll see how things will grow from there. Next match, we have, of course, the War Dragons, Drilla Maloney and Shingo Takagi taking on Bolton Oleg and Yano. And I have to say, this is one of the toughest matches that the War Dragons have ever been, but they were able to overcome every obstacle as much as possible. We know Yano likes to play a little bit dirty, but not to the extreme of the House of Torture, that sort of thing. But there was the Made in Japan onto Yano, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our main event, we have Bishamon taking on Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji. I have to say that Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji have their work cut out, because they're facing a team that has won the tag team titles before and World Tag League back to back. But however, how will that be? Well, I don't know. But of course, we did see a bit of egos taking place, where of course Gabe Kidd tagged himself in without, of course, tried to rely this on Tsuji, and they almost got into a big trouble. But however, somehow they were overcome it. But in the end, of course, it was the Shoto by both Yoshihashi and Goto putting away Yota Tsuji, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Goto picked up the win for his team, leaving them with the total points of 8. As for Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd, they're still at the total points of 8. So we don't know how things will progress from there, but we'll stay tuned for more. But as of right now, we're officially done with our reviews. Let's move on to our last and final thing, and that is, of course, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin with upcoming events. As you know, RevPro will have their upcoming event, Uprising 2025, on the 14th of December. It was announced that the undisputed British Women's Championship will be on the line. Many of you may know this. The CEO, Mercedes Moné, or as she calls herself, Ultimo Moné, will defend the title against Rio. Not Riho, of course. So this will be the first time in a while since this title has been defended. And then, of course, as you know, 2026 was announced that West Side Extreme Wrestling, a German promotion that have their annual tournament known as 16 Carat, has announced it on night 3, which is March 8th. Murder Grandpa will be making his appearance. I'm talking about Minoru Suzuki, so that's going to be awesome. Now, many of you know this already, that every year, wrestling legend Kenta Kobashi has his show called Fortune Dream that happens every year, mostly on April, and it always takes place in Cork and Hall. However, it was announced that it will happen again on April 16, 2026, Fortune Dream 11. However, it didn't take long to announce who's going to be participating in this particular show, and it was announced that Sari will be involved in this one, so that's good for her, and I'm really happy that they announced this. We'll see how things will progress. Now, much of our developments we're going to be talking about, of course, are the Lady of the Ring. We're talking about Mai Sakurai. Many of you know her. Mai Sakurai, in fact, wrestled with Actwres Girls, Stardom, and now MARIGOLD. So there was a lot of things that she did when she interviewed, and many of you may not know this. Just like Hana Kimura, she was also cyberbullied. So people were leaving her like, get out, get lost, I hate you, that sort of thing. But she talked about certain things in her interview regarding her dismissal from Actwres Girls. Many of you may know this or not. She was basically fired from the promotion. And this is what exactly happened. about surrounding her exit with Actwres girls. By the month before my debut, I was practicing morning, afternoon, and night all day, and I finally debuted in February 2020. Right then, the pandemic hit, and I couldn't have matches. At the time, I just debuted, and before various movements could make ingrained in my body, I spent blank 6 months. Only my career length has advanced half a year since the debut. I felt restarting from the below zero with almost no experience. Even I trained hard as a rookie. I often couldn't get booked on matches, and even on my 1 year debut anniversaries, I wasn't booked and worked in merchandise staff. It was painful to see the sad faces of the fans who came to support me that day. I was sorry. I didn't know how to change the situation and starting to lose my motivation for pro wrestling. It was around that time I heard that the company was ceasing to be a wrestling promotion, and I hadn't been wrestling for a year yet. It was hardly any matches experience when I thought about all the training and hardship that the time I invested just on my debut, and I didn't want to retire like this without leaving anything behind. So I decided to continue wrestling. So I discussed wanting to leave the company with the president many times, but we couldn't reach an agreement, and it was announced as a dismissal. I was wondering why it is that I can't leave unless it was a dismissal, even though I haven't done anything wrong, and there's no contract. But I was nearly mentally exhausted from the contagious discussions, and part of me had given up, thinking, whatever. Back then, I had zero experience. I was not completely a rookie, no connections to people and other promotions. The future was pitch black. Now, this is something that many people talked about if you paid attention to what she mentioned. There was discussions about Waka and of course Mai Sakurai, indicating, if you guys remember, Actwres girls were changing their direction, and people were questioning that they knew ahead of time before it was officially announced. Well, it looks like it did, and that led to it. But of course, it's also sad that she did not get the exactly what she wanted after she debuted. I mean, it's real tough. I mean, 2020 really kicked our butts. Not gonna lie about that. But of course, it's kind of messed up that they, instead of saying, "Oh, she's leaving the company," they decided we fired her. I think that's kind of dumb. But many of you may question, how the hell did she ended up in Stardom? Well, that's a good question because she actually answered to that question as well. This is what she said. It was then I consulted with Himeka-san, a senior who had moved from Actwres Girls to Stardom that same day. She introduced me to Rossi Ogawa. Despite meeting me for the first time, Ogawa told me, "Why don't you try with us?" At the same time, I still had entertainment work left, and so the plan was for me to join after the work was finished and I focused solely on wrestling. But my participation ended up happening sooner than immediately planned. Fans looked at me with eyes that said, "Aren't you going to focus on wrestling?" And I was meeting with a storm of slanders, defamations, and critical comments, plus articles about my dismissal, and had come out. So participant stardom was just like juggling both careers. Must have looked terrible. Even so, Ogawa-san told me there's only one truth, and I'm nothing to be grateful that he picked me up, and when I could do nothing. I vowed to live, and I lived so I would never betray him. And I decided in my heart that day would absolutely repay Osawagan. A year and a half after had passed since my debut, but with only about 10 matches experience, I stepped up into a Stardom ring. So yeah, so it makes sense. Like, people would say, that it's like a bad move for her to move to Stardom from Actwres Girls. I mean, yeah, I get that part too. I mean, we saw that with Julia before, but nothing to that extent. So yeah, it makes sense that she already made connections with Rossi. Nothing wrong about that, but we'll see. Now, she even talked about, of course, Julia supporting her, receiving hate comments for her wrestling skills. But she said For about 4 months after joining Stardom, I had no days off, sleeping only 2-3 hours a day. Looking back now, with no time to think slowly, I was just barely managing to get through the matches. On top of that, my wrestling fundamentals were completely lacked. So the social media I get around 300 comes like ended up in a wheelchair, disappear, I hate you. It was around December, 4 months after I started, August 2021, and that I finally got more time to focus on solely on wrestling. By the time that my mentally had toughened in a point where I was almost used to the criticism, but I was human. No matter how strong you are, there are times you feel down, right? The one who always supported me during those times was Julia-san. Back when I joined Stardom, it was Julia-san who made statements weekly pro wrestling column that protective of me regarding the slander. She was my emotional support and very reassuring presence. So yeah, so basically Julia decided to be her support system when people were saying mean comments to her, and it's very cool to have someone to have that kind of support, and it's great that she helped her out. And she even talked more about meeting her in October. Whenever I meet Julia-san, it feels like meeting family. When we went out to eat in Motsunabe, we met after so long. She told me, "You work harder, you become brighter, and that's the highest price for me." So yeah, so she praises her, and she even talked about her Julia about supporting her when she considered quitting after the match in MARIGOLD's Fields Forever. And this is what she said: after having a slander experience with a huge backlash in the past, at the beginning of MARIGOLD's launch, my feelings were strong. I don't want to be hated and criticized anymore yet, and I couldn't have a match at the important launch and got criticized again, and I went into a really negative spiral, saying things like, "I want to quit. Someone like me can't contribute to the promotion. It was better that I'm not here." There was no place for me. Julia-san was there too, saying, "Why are you saying such negative things?" We have exchanges like that, and and she supported my heart, thinking about it's now. I was super troublesome, wasn't I? If Julia-san hadn't been there at the time, I think I would have quit Mighty Gold. I don't know myself exactly change how, but I think the trigger was from Julia-san last match of August 19, 2024, Korakuen Hall. My mental strength, my way of thinking. I feel like I've become a different person now that day. So yeah, um, you know, and she even talked more about Julia, about her memories, and this is what she said. Julia, who I met long ago, was kind. I have many memories of her scolding me in the past, so I reminded myself at times. I cried in the bathroom back then. Hold on. Uh, Back then, even with her own matches, Julia would second all my matches and check them. She pointed out what was bad, what was good, and after the matches, even at the hotel on tours, we rewatched the footage together. We often watch the matches together, including other people's. Even now, I sometimes think she scold me if I have weird matches, but that was good pressure. I believe it precisely because she raised me strictly as a rookie, and that I am now. So basically, yeah, she learned a lot from Julia, which is good. And I think people need to keep their mouth shut about what she did wrong. She has people that can help her out with that. And that's something we can definitely need. So that's pretty much it, what we have for everything on Mai Sakurai. I mean, I really like what she was talking about, and it makes a lot of sense about why she went to Stardom. And of course, hearing now that she was on the verge of quitting, but it is what it is. So, but as of right now, let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, uh, we might have to do, of course, TNA's Final Resolution, Ring of Honor Final Battle, and I believe we do have NXT Deadline, so that's going to be probably the plan right there. I don't think we do have any AEW Collision, I believe, but we'll see how that rolls. If it does, well, we'll leave things like that. But as of right now, that's how it's going to be. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you I do. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.